No.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Conservation News Network. So today we're going to be checking out three really interesting videos. The first one is where a ranger regrets laughing at a rhino that ends up charging him. The second one is a funny video about a squirrel that is giving a leopard the runaround. And the third one is a really important video about what not to do when you're around elephants on safari. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the first video that we got is from Kruger Latest Sightings. This one is about the ranger regrets laughing at a rhino when it charges at him. And so, interestingly, they've actually put a little description in the description. Well, they've got a little thing about what actually happens. The ranger at the front is called Turvin. I think he's been. Looks like he's been a ranger there for quite some time. So let's get into it. All right. So first of all, I think what we've got to have a look at is that you actually have it's difficult to see from here, but this is actually a white rhino. I'll show you in just a little bit of what actually constitutes as a white rhino compared to a black rhino, and he's kind of having a bit of I'm not sure if it's a male or female, but it's having a bit of a showdown with this elephant calf just here. Cow. It's a female elephant. The reason why I know it's a female is later we'll actually be able to see some of the babies, and as we know from if you've watched some of my other videos, that most of the time that elephant herds are generally cows and calves, and the males or the bulls generally hang out by themselves. So that being said, will have small groups of males as well. And so we got a bit of a showdown coming from here. And this is so just to be clear, this is actually in Kruger National Park. Kruger National Park has some of the highest densities of rhino in South Africa, and it's actually quite common to see elephants and rhinos hanging around in the same sort of habitat because, well, especially white rhinos, because they both actually are predominantly grass eaters. Very interestingly enough, now I got a really interesting thing here about how elephants actually, they change their seasonal diet. So I don't know if you saw, well, I reckon you should watch my last video about where there was an elephant charge. But so interestingly, the elephants actually eat quite a significant amount of mapani. And mapani are those butterfly-leafed trees. And when I was in Wangi and Victoria Falls National Park, we would often go through, and the elephants would come through, and it would look like a bomb hit it. And the elephants are generally, they're not really eating the leaves, because as things go, like once it gets into like sort of March, April, May, then the leaves actually drop off because it's a deciduous tree. And so what they'll actually be doing is eating the tree bark, which has a lot of tannins and things that are actually good for elephants. And they'll switch from essentially this white one is monocots, and monocots are generally grasses. And so you'll actually see quite a lot of overlap between elephants and rhinos, and well, white rhinos in particular, because white rhinos feed on grass. And you see there's a bit of a charge from the rhino, and the elephant is backing off. Now, I just want to actually show you. So the reason why we can tell it's a female is, first of all, it's kind of a smaller elephant. And you can see here, it has sort of like a blocky sort of thing. So male elephants have a much more dome-shaped head, whereas the females, and you can also kind of see it here as well, the females have a much more dome-shaped head. Sorry, not dome. The males have a dome-shaped head, and the females have sort of more of an angular shaped forehead. Okay, and we got to a next bit. So I reckon, and so interestingly enough, one thing I'd like to mention is South Africa is one of the countries where they'll actually have a tracker on the front of the game drive vehicle, because you've got this guy here. This guy here, he's driving and he's actually talking to the tourists and telling them about, all the different stuff about the ecology and the elephants and everything like that. And he may not necessarily have the time to be able to essentially be tracking all the animals as well. So they actually generally have a tracker in the front that can go and look for wildlife. Because unlike, for example, in places like East Africa, where everyone has radios and they'll be like, "Oh, we've seen a leopard," and everyone gets on the radio, and then all of a sudden you have, like 10 cars running over to where the leopard is. These guys will actually go and track the animals. All right, let's get back into it. So, whoops. Another reason why you can tell it's females is because you can see back here, here's a calf. And as I mentioned, you can see kind of like this dome-shaped head. And you can't actually see the mammary glands in this one so much. But that's another way of telling if it's a female or a male. All right, and this is a male buffalo I just saw, because you could see the penis just kind of flopping around back there. And interestingly, that the females, they can't really be bothered trying to fight with this buffalo. A lot of the time, the animals, I think I've mentioned this before as well in some of the other videos, but animals will do everything to try and avoid conflict, because at the end of the day, being hurt, it means that, oh, hello there, pretty. We've got a little visitor. Hey, pretty, you want to come say hey? No? Okay. She doesn't want to say hi. It's my little cat. Very sweet little animal. She's going to maybe start yelling at me in a minute. Yeah, hey. Every time, Lippy, and she's messing with my green screen. Lippy. Quit it. All right. Back to the video. Let's get without the distractions from the cats. Alrighty. So, where was I? Yeah, animals will generally try and avoid conflict at all costs, and so these elephants are like, oh, screw it, we can't be bothered trying to fight with this rhino. And rhinos can actually get really, really territorial. And interestingly enough, so there's two kinds of rhinos. We've got black rhinos and white rhinos, and has nothing to do with the coloration of them at all. They both have this sort of grayish sort of color that you can see here. It actually has to do with the lip. So the white rhinos, because they are grazers and generally eat grass, they have a wide lip. Whereas, white rhino lip. So yeah, as you can see here, the white rhino have sort of like a wide lip, whereas the black rhinos have much more of a hooked lip, because they eat a lot. They're much more browsers, and that lip actually is interesting because, as you can see here, it's actually used to be able to go and grab bits off trees and things like that. So, yeah. And also the difference, it's really easy to tell black rhinos and white rhinos, because the white rhinos have a much larger head, and their head is much sort of like angular, and they're usually bigger as well. Whereas a black rhino has more of it's got a smaller head, and it's kind of like almost like oval shaped, whereas these is kind of like rectangular shaped. Yeah, cool. See, this white rhino is being really aggressive. And one thing about about white rhinos compared to black rhinos. Black rhinos are generally much more aggressive as well. I've been able to get quite close to a lot of white rhinos and not have any issues, but I've been charged by several black rhinos before, and yeah, they can be much more temperamental.
Not here, buddy.
And you can see now that guide has decided to get. Let me show you this guide here. Has decided, okay, it's a bit close for him. These elephants have all of a sudden moved back, and everyone's a bit temperamental. So that guy is getting out of there. I think it's a smart idea. He's got tourists in the back, and it's an open vehicle as well. And with cows and cars, you can never be too careful. And see this guy. Yeah, he's loving it. And then you see the J. You see the change in him. That's gold from him. What was his name? From Turvin. Yeah. Yeah. Quite frankly, I'd also be a bit worried too, because when a rhino charges, it will be just going straight for it. There's no rhinos is very rare. Like an elephant, where an elephant might do a mock charge or something like that. Rhinos will go for it and go for it properly. But I think he charged and then he decided to stop. So yeah. Anyway, great video. I think that's really great. This is the first time I'm actually watching this one. I saw just a little bit before, and yeah. So this next one, I thought I watched it. It's pretty funny. It's goes for quite a bit of time actually, and so this is of not a ground squirrel. It's like, I can't remember what kind of squirrels they are. Squirrels are not my most well known one, but you see these ones all the time in the bush, and quite often, like what I'll notice when I'm like driving around is that you'll see them like just kind of by the tree. As soon as they see something, they'll run up and then go and hide in into a hole of a tree or something like that. So let's get onto this one. Oh, there it is. See that leopard? That leopard's trying to get it. So one thing I find really, really interesting about leopards is that they are just so cat-like. That's why I think Lippy came in earlier. She really wanted me to go with the cat video. Though she's not really a cat person. She's more of a people person, and not really even that. But anyway, and one thing about, like, for example, cats in the wild, like even domestic cats and cats like leopards, is they have a really, really broad diet. So there was a study done on leopards to show that they actually had something like 30 or 40 species that they can actually potentially eat, and it ranged from anything from tiny little lizards to even hippo, but I would say, and sometimes even elephant. But I would say I reckon most of the time, if you're seeing that leopard's been eating elephant meat, then it's probably a carcass that's died, and that leopard's managed to scavenge a little bit, because pretty much in the African bush, there's no animal that's too precious to go and scavenge or steal food off another animal. And so, yeah. And just the thing I love about leopards is they're just so cat-like. My cats would be exactly like this as well. And they're really, really inquisitive. I actually had an interesting / scary story when I was working in Mozambique, where I had to go and put if you can imagine, like, there was no power at the place except through like a generator. So if I ever wanted to, say, watch TV or something like that, there wasn't any cable or anything. We had DVDs back in the back in the old days. And but anyway, and so the generator hut was probably about 400 or 500 meters away from where the house was. And so I would actually have to go and walk over there at night, it was night often, because I wanted to have the lights on when I was cooking and that sort of stuff, and then I'd have to go and turn it off, and then walk back by myself. And I remember this one time I went over and I turned it off, and then all of a sudden my torch just stopped working. And I was just like, oh no, this is not great. And by that point, I'd also gotten pretty blasé as well. I wasn't always carrying the rifle with me, and that time that was 100% a mistake, because I ended up, as I was walking back, I got this really, really eerie feeling, and as I was. And so, and I just kind of walked back slowly, and didn't run, because like if you run, if there's any predators at all, they'll start chasing you, and then you're pretty much fucked. But and then I went back the next day to just kind of have a look, and pretty much exactly the way I walked, there was a leopard that had been following me. So yeah, these things, they're really, really inquisitive, and leopards are not known to be going and killing people, unless they're like really, really old. But still, I didn't really want to be attacked by a leopard. So from then on, I brought a second torch, and I always brought the rifle with me.
The squirrel right next to her face. See just left of the. See where her nose is? Mm-hmm. Just to the left there.
Oh, here we go. All right. So also one thing I think maybe some people may think that might be wrong is that this squirrel's just kind of messing with the leopard. So I would say that the squirrel is actually using. It seems to me like the squirrel is using a tactic where it's going around and is trying to essentially hide from the leopard. But also, if that squirrel gets on the ground, it has a far lesser chance of surviving, because that leopard can really, really quickly catch up to the squirrel on the ground, whereas in the tree, the squirrel can kind of move around and has a lot more options. And so that's maybe why it hasn't actually gone and moved somewhere else yet. Look at that. That's just amazing. And the agility of this cat. it's just amazing. And I don't know. I feel like this is probably a female leopard, just because it kind of looks a little bit small. It's really difficult to tell because of this tree, this tree here. But like, yeah, and quite frankly, I can't see any nuts or anything like that there, so there's a good chance of female leopard. The difference between males and female leopards also is massive. Really, really, really big. One thing I'd also like to point out is that there's a reason why often leopards go for smaller animals like this. The risk for the leopard is actually quite small in terms of how much of being injured. In comparison to, say, trying to take an impala or something, especially a male impala with the horns, and you could end up getting, she could end up getting gored. This is a pretty quick and easy meal. But that being said, everything's a gamble in a way, because the leopard needs to figure out, well, how much energy am I going to expend trying to get a meal compared to what I actually get out of it too? Because let's be real, also a squirrel's not exactly the epitome of fine dining, or, well, there's not that much meat on it. And see, finally it goes down, and the leopard realizes this, and yeah, and then we don't see it anymore, because, yeah. But that's a funny little video. And finally, on to the main course. So this is I'd say this is textbook kind of what not to do. This it's an interesting video. It's actually based on YouTube, 20 years old now. It was shot in 1998, so that's 28 years. Yeah, 28 years old is when this video was shot. So the animal that we're going to see, the elephant that in particular that causes the problems, is called Mara. I don't know if the animal, if that's a tourist name or whether it's or if it's like from the guides or anything like that. But apparently this elephant was known around in the area. So this is set in, it could be the Masai Mara or the Serengeti. It's really, really difficult to be able to differentiate because essentially those two areas can look very, very similar. It's just the difference between the Mara is in Kenya it's called the Masai Mara, and then the Serengeti is the large portion of area that is south of that in Tanzania. And as anyone who has watched much wildlife documentaries, that's where you have this great migration between the wildebeest and the zebra, and they move all over the place. Really great book is, if you ever get a chance to be able to find it, is Serengeti Shall Not Die by a guy called something Grazimek, and he actually created Lippy. Cat playing with my stuff. And he actually helped with the creation of the Masai Mara and the thing. Oh, this one's already been messed with. Yeah, helped with the creation of the Masai Mara, and he flew around in this zebra-shaped Cessna. And a really, really great book if you ever get the chance to read it. So let's get into it. Alrighty. Oh wow! First of all, I'd like to just stop here. Have a look at the length of these tusks as well. These are all females. African savanna elephants. Well, yeah, we actually have two kinds of elephants in Africa. You have savanna or bush elephants, they're the same one type, and then you also have forest elephants, which are a completely different species. But these this is back in like the 90s, and this was a bit after they had this massive. Elephants essentially were getting culled as a result of poaching back in the 80s, and as a result, during the late 80s and early 90s, you ended up not having that many elephants in the area, and this is at a point when the elephants were actually growing in size quite substantially. So, yeah, one thing that we'll also notice is that you can see that these cows are all clustering up in a big group. What they're doing is you've got the more dominant females, so like this one here and this one here, and also this one to some degree. They're all in front of what they perceive as a danger, and behind them is all the calves. So they're essentially protecting the calves, and this is textbook elephant protective behavior. All right. So next thing I want to point out is, I don't know if anyone noticed this, but first of all, I'm not sure what happened first, but as the guide or whoever's driving was revving the engine, you had this cow here come up and start moving forward, and that's definitely an intimidation technique. She'll be coming in and saying, "Hey, look, I'm the dominant one here, and if you don't stop messing around, we are going to charge you." And also, elephants are also really smart, really inquisitive as well. So there's a good chance that she could be also coming up and having a better look as well. But in any case, my 100% recommendation for anyone who's actually sort of in this position is, if you see elephants crowding around babies like that, you are obviously causing them just an enormous amount of stress, and you should back off. I think what a lot of people should realize is that, if you're causing the animal stress then maybe you shouldn't be around them. Maybe you should back off and just leave them be. You know, humans have taken up so much space in the world, and there's only small parts of the world where wildlife can actually exist anymore, and we are still encroaching on wildlife at an enormous rate in these wilderness areas. And so, I would say that ethically we should really, if you're going and being in these national parks, give these animals some space and let them be able to do the things that they want, that they can do naturally. Because if these animals go, then our world goes too. I think a lot of people don't really understand that. It's really, and elephants are so important to the ecosystem. As I was mentioning, the elephants actually they came through, and then they when the elephant, interestingly, when the elephant numbers went down, you had massive amounts of tree growth in the savannah. And even though, so interesting thing about the Masai Mara Savannah Serengeti area is the reason why it's got these vast grasslands is because it's a very volcanic soil. Over to the west, you have a lot of volcanic region from around like Rwanda, eastern DRC, where there's a lot of volcanoes and that, and also just to the east of the Mara, you also have. Let's just show you real quick. Okay, so this is the Serengeti area right here. So you've got Mount Kilimanjaro to the east, the highest mountain in Africa. It is an extinct volcano. You also have to the northeast, you have Mount Kenya, which is the second largest mountain in the world, which is also an extinct volcano. And to here we've got Lake Kariba, and then to the west of there, all through here, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and also Rwanda, Burundi. It's a very, very volcanic region. And so these areas are actually, especially back in the day, when you have a volcano go up, you have all the soot and ash and that sort of stuff going through. And that is what helped create the Serengeti. But the thing about it is, too, that elephants, in particular, they are habitat modifiers, and that because they will actually knock down trees and everything like that, and they help create grasslands. There's a really, really interesting study that was done back in the 90s about this. And see, look, going and revving the engine, that's just not a smart thing to do. There's no reason for it. There's no reason for it. You can just back away. But, quite often, and I'm not going to say that all Kenyan guides are bad, because I know there's some really great guides in Kenya, but I've seen some of the worst behavior from guides when I was working in Kenya and doing anti-poaching and stuff like that. And, I think that a lot of the time these guides, they rely on tips, and so they will try and push the boundaries in particular to try and do that so that they can get money. It's only natural for these guides to want to be able to get money and to be able to feed their families. But then at the same time, it's like, well, what are you actually doing this for? See, now the elephants are now moving off. I'd also like to say that tourists are not exactly helping the situation either, because there's many tourists who will be like, look, I'll give you an extra $20 if you can get us close to this elephant, or we want to see the big five, and unless we see the big five, we're not going to give you all your tips. So there's definitely I would say that tourists also are to blame in some respect as well. And here we go. Okay, so this is not like a full charge in comparison. And I've seen this quite a lot as well. So this one here, this is the elephant that everyone calls Mara, which I think is a bit of a silly name because, it's in the Mara. But anyway, I'm not gonna go into that. But anyway, so female elephants will sort of do this thing where they'll just start kind of running towards you, and it's more of a I'm trying to chase you away, not I'm going to try and kill you type charge. You know, if you have an encounter with like a bull in must, he's coming in to kill you, and he'll have his head down and his trunk in, and then he will be coming at you at full speed. You know, elephants can run at about 45 kilometers an hour, and he'll be running that fast. Whereas you can see with this elephant, she's not running like at the full speed. And she also has her ears out, so she's making herself look really, really intimidating. And essentially, she's trying to push these tourists and get them out of there, away from the herd. I don't know if she is the matriarch or not. Often, it's not the matriarch that does it, because the matriarch is leading the rest of the herd away. It's usually a sister or one of her daughters that is doing this. And you see now, maybe one or two other sisters or daughters is also joining in. And I've seen this happen before. The exact same thing actually happened to me one time in Savi Valley, and we were quite far away. We were maybe about 200 meters away, and we saw these elephants coming across from the just crossing the road. And then all of a sudden, you had this just one female elephant come out. And she just came at us at a reasonable speed and doing exactly the same as this. Trumping at us and running towards us, essentially trying to scare us off. And they might do this a couple of times as well. One of these days I'll come, I'll actually go into it a bit more, and I can show you some of my old footage. If you check out my other YouTube channel, just Patrick Williamson, you should be able to see that footage. But see, I think that, I don't know if you heard in the background those tourists shouting, but I think they don't realize sort of like how much danger they're actually in. And you know, if I was in if I was in the car with them, I probably would have been pretty pissed off. Because these tourists are obviously idiots. And also the revving. It just irks me to see these people revving the car. Like, that's not going to do anything. All you're going to do is piss off the elephants. And you can see this other guy. And quite frankly, by doing that, see, this car here was actually kind of doing the right thing, keeping a safe distance. And now they've actually put these guys in danger. It's kind of really stupid in my opinion. And see, he didn't back off. He kind of, I don't know if there's a male or female in that car. And actually, I don't know if you saw that. Let's just go back a sec. What you'll actually see is this vehicle here actually drove towards him. And see, they got, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I was just watching this because I actually hadn't seen this last bit before. I hadn't paid attention, but just check out this elephant here.
Oh yeah.
And we actually missed that, but I would say, quite frankly, there's a good chance that elephant actually did try and charge at that car. It's a shame that we didn't actually see that. But yeah, in general, like, I would say whoever filmed this and the people in that vehicle, you guys are stupid. You're really, really stupid, and I really, really hate seeing people do that. So don't be like these people, everybody. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you all learned something today. One thing that I just want to stress, when you go out into the wilderness, make sure you treat all animals with respect. Keep your distance and don't do anything stupid. anyway, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you got anything to mention, please chuck it in the comments section. I read all the comments. So yeah, great. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.